Okay. Right, the next Q&A panel, we have got the broadcasters, who will introduce each one by one, in case you didn't see them over yesterday for some weird reason.
Hello everyone, I'm Crescendo from MLP Radio.
I'm Sketchy Sounds, I'm a regular contributor to MLP Radio.
I'm FoxyTail from Evergreen Radio.
I'm Bobby P from UK Convention podcast.
I'm Denegoth, also from the UK Convention podcast.
Okay. Very well pleased crowd, that's good. Right, shall we get straight to the questions? Yeah, okay.
So, Denegoth, could you kiss Bobby?
We did this yesterday, that's not a question.
I missed it.
Too bad for you. We're already on to the silly questions, aren't we? Anyone got any serious questions?
Crescendo, how'd you get involved in MLP Radio?
Huh?
How'd you get involved in MLP Radio?
I'm actually one of the founding members, and it all started when we were listening to a podcast around the time of the Discord episode's release. And we were thinking, why don't we do this, but with Pony? And that's basically how it got started. We were thinking that maybe we could do episode reviews, and that led to our first episode review of Lesson Zero.
On that note, why don't we ask everyone else how they got into the channel, the broadcast, things they do?
Sorry, what was that?
How did you get into representing M3 and things like that?
Alright. Okay, well, in my case, I happened to be around when MLP Radio was founded. I mean, I was already part of the particular group that was throwing these ideas around. I was in contact with them. I wasn't as involved with the founding process, obviously. I mean, my place in MLP Radio is, I'm not an actual full member of staff, but I am someone who has a regular show on MLP Radio. I was around when the idea was coming together. I contributed to some ideas here and there, and also One Trick, who's one of the big three members of MLP Radio, is like one of the bosses, basically. When they were getting started, she said, one of the things we're going to be doing is interviewing people from around the community, like artists, musicians, and so forth. She was like, would you be interested in being interviewed by us? So I was like, yeah, sure. So when they finally were going things together, she was like, right, who basically going to be first? I was like, oh, okay. So the very first interview that was on MLP Radio was with myself, as a matter of fact. Although it suffered a little from the fact we didn't have multi-track recording back then, so there was a bit of talking over each other. It was all good. I think you interviewed me on that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was me and Final Draft.
Yes, Clement Final Draft. So that's how I got involved.
I got involved with Evergreen Radio. I joined the site near its creation time, a few months after I got into it, and I just really wanted to get involved. So as soon as they opened up, as soon as they said, oh, we would like a little extra help, I immediately volunteered. And since then, I've been part of the staff and just doing what I can ever since.
Well, for me, for the UK Convention podcast, I joined in about January and it started in December. And I think in March, I was just listening to podcasts all the time. I just had the idea that we could start one, and then we recorded it that night.
Very night. The first thing we did when we got it was put it up Audacity, started blabbering away.
Put a tab on it, put it official on.
Yeah, right after we did the first episode, the owner of UK Convention, he's owner, yeah. He liked it a lot, so he actually gave us our own subsection of the site and put up a little box in the corner that gives a notification of when a new episode comes out and stuff, which gave us the publicity on the site we needed.
Any more questions?
Hi, to the staff of MLP Radio. What kind of process do you go through to get members to get staff who work on the show to come on the station and give interviews?
Well, Final Draft is really the one who deals with that side of things. Basically, it involves just him writing to the agents of the of the voice actresses and such, and just asking them about interviews, and also talking with them.
He's pretty darn good at it as well. As has been evidenced by some of the guests we've had.
Hey, Nixon? Get one for the back.
In all of your time broadcasting, what's been your favourite moment of doing a podcast or giving an interview? What's been your favourite or most memorable moments?
My favourite moment easily has to be interviewing Ashley Ball. She is incredibly bouncy and an all-around fun person to talk to. It does help my favourite pony is Rainbow Dash.
For me, with stuff that's been going on with Free Radio, I've not been as directly involved with the podcast stuff, obviously, but I certainly have enjoyed the stuff that I have been involved in. Probably my favourite thing that I did, as far as the podcast goes, would be doing an episode review with Brush and Bones and Moonlight. I think it was us three that reviewed Friend Indeed. Was the one we reviewed. It was a lot of fun, and we had a very good dynamic going on. I'm hoping to do a few more episode reviews sometime soon. But in general, I also enjoy listening to my regular show as well. That is always fun.
I think my favourite part is always doing the interviews with musicians in the community. They're always a blast to talk to. And I think one of my favourite interviews was Omni-Pony. We've had him on twice now, and he was really good to come back. And it's just really fun to talk to. That's one of my favourite times.
Well, for me, it was our third episode. We didn't have any big guests, then we somehow got Blaze on. We had Blaze, Big Haven and Toaster on, and it was great.
For me, there are really two answers to this, but one of them's a little too insider. For anyone out there who listens to it, Matty Bojangles. And the other one is my favourite interview would have to have been with Laser Pondry, because my god, that guy, he really knows his stuff, and he just basically sat there 40 minutes. Like, one that we actually really learned.
And our first audio recording, his audio didn't record, so he sat there, it was like 3 in the morning for him, and we just recorded it again straight after, like
it turns
2 hours. So.
It turns out he had his Audacity set to record stereo, not microphone, so he was recording us.
Yeah.
So we had to completely re-record that, so that was about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it was about 7 hours total.
Yeah.
Okay, anything from me?
When you first started doing your podcasts, were you really taking them seriously, or did you expect people to really sort of join in?
Yeah, we've always taken ourselves seriously from the very beginning. We wanted to be something the founder could enjoy, but also like gain new insight from, especially from the episode reviews, because there are those moments in the episodes that you start to think, oh yeah, I never realized that. So yeah, we've always taken ourselves seriously.
I would certainly agree with that. Every radio, in my experience, definitely was not as serious when it started out as it is these days. These days is a much more professional attitude in general with it, and it shows in production. But I do recall when we first started out, we were maybe quite as serious as we are now. Because I do recall certainly the commercial thing wasn't all that serious. But we won't talk much about that. We don't worry about such things.
It's behind us now.
Yes.
I know when every Penny Radio started up, we weren't always serious. It was just something fun to do and just give back to the community. As time's gone on, we try to be serious when we need to be, but also fun and playful when we can be, just to keep the community involved.
Well, I guess we pretty much started off as an idea we thought would actually get made official by the website. So yeah, I guess we
really just wanted to have fun and make something that we thought that we'll get like 5 listeners.
Yeah,
we can make those 5 listeners enjoy it. Then
we pretty much wanted like a small community thing, and we kept getting big guests.
Yeah, like the main idea with the podcast for us podcast is it is heavily community focused, really. We usually record in 3 segments. The first one is us two blabbering on, so people usually skip that, I assume. The second part is where we interview people, and we always have only a few questions of our own. What we do is we put up a thread on UK Press Bureau, and we get people to give their own questions. So just, you know, the community get their questions answered, asked directly to the people we're interviewing. And then we have a third segment, which is a question of the week, where we will ask the community a question, and then we'll read out all the answers that we've received. So we do try to involve the community with everything. Like even just, you know, when we do our little live podcasts at meets and stuff, we always just get anyone that wants to get in on it, just involved.
Yeah. Is there anyone from the fandom or the show itself who you particularly like to have an interview with, or a second interview if you've already had one?
Well, my answer, of course, would be Ashley Paul again, but I would love to interview Tara Strong because for that one it was just Final Draft alone. I would absolutely love to talk to her as well.
If I had the chance to talk to anyone, I would really want to sit down and have a chat with Daniel, because as a musician, and being the driving force of music in the show, at least as far as the songs are concerned, I honestly, I would kill to have you on this show. It'd be fantastic.
I have to completely agree with what he's just said.
Well, I guess like any voice actors, I guess, or anyone semi-official. I'd love to get Silver Hound on because I just love his music and try and do that in the future, I guess.
I'm gonna just throw my hands up and say it. John Delancey.
Everyone's got their wishes.
Hello. This is a sort of general question again. You talk a bit about the idea of a community, and community is quite a sort of complex idea. Do you feel that there's any scope for that, the work which you're doing, somehow to sort of grow that community, to sort of link with adjacent fan groups, or do you feel that that's not really a part of what you're doing? I'm just thinking, I'm sort of slightly an interloper here, and I sort of see, it seems that, you know, like a very strong, kind of warm group of people, and, you know, fan groups of this sort are very, you know, very unified, but of course there's strength in kind of bridging that to other fan groups. Was that really bad? I don't know. I mean, I was thinking just that if you're working on a sort of potentially public service, you can sort of extend your reach and maybe bring in interest areas that would enrich this community and build it into a bigger, stronger thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we've always had a part of us that has been very community oriented. We've got our various shows that try and highlight different things. I mean, especially Dusty Cat's show, Stay Brony, My Friends. We have various guests from the community. They talk about things they might be putting out, and give away a few things. And there's also, we do articles occasionally. Recently we had, well, not too recently, but we've had a few articles. One of them is from a Japanese marketing person, I think. He was talking about the Brony culture and how it was completely different over there compared to over here. And there's also other things we do that are community-based but aren't pony-based, because one that jumps to mind is Michelle Krieger and Mando Pony's Saturday Night Songs, which is a show we do every Saturday night where they play a couple of cover songs, and they're generally really good.
I think very good is a bit of an understatement.
Yes.
Yeah, every radio in general, not everything we do is fully related, well, 100%. There's always some relation to it. For example, Saturday Night Songs, taking that as an example. Whilst the songs being released are not fully material, it's still a case of Michelle Krieger is someone who's involved in the show, and Amanda Pony obviously is someone who's heavily involved in the fandom. But not everything that we're doing is necessarily 100% really related. And we do look into all sorts of areas. I mean, there's, as Crescendo just said, Stay Brony, My Friends. we have guests from all parts of the community who've done all sorts of things. I mean, he has interviewed people who do art, people who do music, people who do plushies, people who do prosthetics and stuff, all sorts of things. It's quite an astounding thing to see the diversity that's out there. But a whole lot of the stuff that we put out as well focuses on all sorts of different areas, looks at all sorts of different things. So we certainly are expanding all the time in terms of what we look at and how far our reach goes.
In terms of Pony Radio, we do try and involve the community a lot, and we do try and get all areas of the fan. We've been trying to get artists and animators and whatnot onto the radio. But also part of our bigger website, evergreen.com, is the forums mainly, where you can talk and discuss things. So it's not just ponies, there's where you can talk about films or other fandoms or just the community in general. And we always try and encourage this and try and find other ways to branch out and bring more things together. Because what we see as a Brony is more of a community thing rather than just a pony thing.
We've had a few episodes where it's kind of been like a dry week for like pony-related news and stuff. So it's like on the fly when you were not around, I did the
2 months without internet.
we went to a meetup, film meetups, and we saw Spider-Man. So we kind of did a Spider-Man themed podcast. But really, like with guests and stuff, we like if anyone just ever wants to contact me and come on, pretty much come on. Like
I've worked into my busy schedule.
Well, I've been trying to like get lots of people for weeks, trying to get artists like Rupert Fox who've got a story and stuff, but a lot of times it doesn't quite work out on the days you need it to. So,
on the subject of bringing in others, I know quite a few non-Bronies who listen to the podcast, as well as episode 2, Interview with a Hater. Now, that was extremely interesting. I believe at one point Spike was compared to a wee dunk.
And that was before I was like, oh, we can try and keep it clean. Like after that, the explicit tag on iTunes was always on. So
we're never going to get rid of that because Bobby couldn't work out how to bleep swears and all that stuff.
I could, but it would be about 10 minutes of beeps. So.
It's just, I'm showing unbelievable restraint and not dropping F-bombs here.
And there was also another time, like the most recent one, with somebody's phone.
Now, that's a long story, but I will shorten it. I used to do, like before the podcast started, I used to do vlogs and meetups. So I would just, get in there, show the cool things going on. And in the first one I did, my father was in it. And now he left a wonderful insult to me right at the beginning of it, which of course instantly on UK Equestria had him marked down as an absolute legend. I guess people just hate me. So then when we made the podcast, from the very beginning, people would be saying, get your dad on, get your dad on, get your dad on. Now of course, after months and months of convincing my dad, finally gives in. And so Bobby came over to mine, sat there with the microphone and everything, and my dad spent about an hour insulting me, which is apparently the funniest podcast there is, so I guess people really do just hate me.
In your 4 shows, every radio, your live show, anything on the radio and the podcast, what's next? What's the next big thing for you to do in the show?
Well, we're always looking for more things to do, we're ever expanding. We're always looking for more interviews, more episode reviews and such. We have 90s week planned actually, because we previously in February did an 80s week in which we went back and did a very Mystery Science Theatre 3K thing on the very first Pony episode, which is also a TV movie. And we're planning the same thing for 90s style ponies. So that's one of the things we've got coming up. And we're just ever expanding. We get more people talking to us. We may look for more shows in the future and stuff like that?
Yeah, basically everything Crescendo does. So I, for one, am certainly looking forward to the 90s week because the 80s week was so much fun. In terms of my own, what I do with my live show, I think the next big thing for that would be trying to get a few more other musicians on with me. I mean, so far, the main one that I have come on a lot is actually Buck's chairman, Sam, because in fact, not many of you might know, is he's actually a pretty damn good cellist. So I've had the pleasure of having him round a good few times now and accompanying me on his cello. It's absolutely fantastic. So I suppose I'm
sitting here.
Sorry?
You're just saying I'm sitting here.
I actually couldn't see you back there because this light is blinding the heck out of me. So I can't see you. I just noticed you now. I can see your pink hair back there. But
just stand out.
Yeah. But I suppose the next main thing for me would be trying to get a few more musicians to be able to stop by and join me on the show and just rock out basically. That'd be the next big thing for me.
For us, we're always looking, as well as having our own ideas, we take a lot of ideas from the community. So, to be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure what a next big thing might be, because it could be an idea that you give us. So, we're always just trying to take ideas, work on them, and see what we can give to you.
Well, we've always been thinking about expanding to do something video-based. There was the live podcast yesterday, if anyone saw that. I hope not. I will try and, it was live. I think there's video of that somewhere if we could get that, because there's about 20 minutes of audio that won't make sense otherwise.
But to be honest, if we open a YouTube channel, I really don't think that's going to make much sense either. This is very,
Well, like, for us, it's always just, we try and get guests and community involvement, and I guess we could try and, when season 3 comes back, get back to weekly, I guess.
Or we can just open a YouTube channel and rip off Mega 64.
Or we could do that.
Dress up as ponies run around town.
Okay, next question.
This is a question to the two groups, UKoE and to M3 Radio. Would you ever work with each other on the show? Say UKoE go on to M3 Radio or the other way around to sort of hijack this show?
I'm fine to go on anything. We actually talked about this like earlier, so yeah, for sure. If anyone wants me to go on anything, I'll be there if I can. So.
And I'll just follow him wherever he goes.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'd love to add any of you on as well.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd love to have any of you guys on as well. We'd have to speak to Final Draft about it, but I'm sure we could sort something out.
I'm fairly sure that what with this all being Brony community podcast and considering one of the main things of that strategy, I don't think any of us would rule out working together with each other.
Okay, next one.
As an open question, do any of you have a particular favourite thing created by the fandom, whether it be a fic or a song or even a flash animation?
Well, as for a specific thing, flash animation comes to mind in Epic Wub Time, which is done by my good friend Rob Bob. He's mad, to put it simply, but he's a brilliant guy. Now, my favourite part of the fandom, though, it's not really a specific thing. I love the music in general. I've always been a musician lover, hence the name Crescendo. And I'm actually hoping to branch out into my own music sometime.
As for me, that's kind of like asking me to pick a favourite limb. Because there's so much in the community that I love. And this is the thing as well. I mean, the particular name I chose for myself, Sketchy Sounds, is trying to encompass the fact that I myself do writing art and music, and I also love writing art and music. So I consume a lot of material, so to speak. And I've read a lot of fics, I've watched a lot of animations, I've listened to a fair amount of music. I couldn't say I really have any particular one really favorite thing that stands out above everything else. there's certainly a good few honourable mentions, I would say. Again, like Crescendo, I love the Epic Time series. I think probably it's a close run thing with those between Epic UK Time and Epic of 2012, because they both have their own points which are just absolutely hilarious. I have to say, I'm also really looking forward to what they have planned. I don't know if any of you have seen the trailer for, what was it? What was he called the new one?
I'm not sure.
Basically, the new one he's doing has got Uncle Chan in it. And if you've seen the trailer for that, I fell off my seat when I saw the editor there, where it's got Spike sees Uncle Chan, and Spike goes, ah! And Uncle Chan goes, ah! It's, oh my word. I was falling off my seat, so that is going to be amazing. But yeah, there's way too much to just say one particular thing is my favourite. This is
I think my favourite area has to be the music, because I just spend so much time around it, working on the radio and the website. All my music devices have now been replaced with Pony music, because there's just not enough space for everything else.
I think the same can be said for all of us.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really choose a favourite, but I have to say recently I asked Ruby Fox for basically I'm related to Mass Effect, so I got Film Chef drawn as a pony from her, and it's my favourite. It's my favourite picture like ever. So.
And so, and it was your ideas, actually, self-indulgent boy. I'm gonna just throw my hands up and say it.
Well,
Discord by Living Tombstone.
Okay, next question. Go.
Okay, this question is for Everfree Radio. Seeing as you have counterparts on the other side of the pond, how do you work around all those different time zones?
Well, there's a fun little it's not so much of an in-joke, but it's a centered around me joke I have. And I live in a time zone called Crescendo Chaos Time. And it basically means I sleep whenever it just happens. Fortunately enough, it does tend to coincide with the people across the pond, as you say. And it enables the podcast to go on quite smoothly. But most of the time we are available to each other very easily through a voice chat client we call Mumble. It is called Mumble.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we communicate, and yeah, it's pretty accessible for us.
Yeah, it is fairly straightforward. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult for me. I actually try, at least anyway, to keep my sleep pattern to a bit more of a sensible schedule. It doesn't always happen. Certainly doesn't happen a lot at the moment because I currently have no job, so I don't have any obligation to sleep at a good time. So I kind of just awake to whenever I feel like it, which usually ends up being ridiculous, like 5 AM. So it's actually really, really easy for me to communicate with folk across the other side of the world because, like, hey, I'm still awake when you guys are free. But as Crescendo said, we use Mumble to just communicate with each other freely and easily. It's very convenient because we all know that if any one of us, right, if we're going to want to talk about radio stuff, then all we need to do is just go in there and we'll find our counterparts and just be able to go like, hey, I want to do this, or we need to do this, or this is going on, blah, blah, blah. So it's pretty easy to keep in touch with each other. It's basically, as long as everyone is making sure to communicate, then it's fine, there's no problem. Yeah, quite straightforward.
And I know the UK Crescendo podcast guy said about with laser time free. What about yourself, Foxy, with the Everpony Radio?
Yeah, every day when we start, I think the majority of them actually are in America, and I have to say it's a healthy mix of Skype and late night. I think that's the best way of being able to keep going.
Okay. Next question. I've got one at the back.
Foxy, can I have a hug?
software do you use for your streaming and recording, and what software would you recommend for people who want to get started with either podcasts or streams or radios?
Well, as previously mentioned, we use Mumble for recording and speaking, and Mumble has a beautiful feature called multi-track recording. So it basically records a separate track for every person who speaks. The file sizes can get a little bit crazy if you're going for like a good couple of hours, but it helps with the audio editing. You can shove like each individual track into Audacity and then cut and mess around with it as you please without affecting other people's speaking. And as for streaming, we personally use Livestream and the Livestream Procaster. It's actually been really good for us, especially with the web browser Livestream Studio. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's a mix of things, as Crescendo said. Primarily for example, for Dustcast show and a good deal of live events, that's usually the Livestream producer, which is their newer thing, which is browser-based. You do need a fairly powerful machine to run it decently, because it will eat a lot of RAM. But if you have the hardware for it, then it's a good thing. We use, as Crescendo said, Audacity for audio editing. And I think for video production, because we have some of that as well, that's After Effects that gets done for that. I think it's a mixture of After Effects and something else.
I think it is Sony Vegas.
Yes, that's probably what it is. It's basically Vegas and After Effects, and it's A-Track that does that because he's insane.
Well, we're actually training a couple of new people to do it, so there's a little less pressure off his back.
Yeah. As for some of the other stuff we do, I personally, when I do a live show, when I do my Thursday night thing, I am actually using Adobe Flash Media Live Recorder to do that. The reason I'm doing that is because I actually broadcast it on one source, because I broadcast it to every radio, but I also send it to my own Just TV channel. And the Flash Media Encoder lets you send a broadcast to more than one source. It basically gives you main signal and backup signal. So for every video it's made, Just TV is that. So just in case something happens with the live stream. This live stream does seem to hate it. It has skipped out more than once, so I just basically make sure I go back. It's fairly simple to use. I've used all sorts of things though. I mean, I actually have a fairly ghetto setup for what I do, because I also have a virtual audio cable, and that's taking the audio from Reaper, which is my audio workstation. So feeding audio into that, goes through virtual audio cable, into Flash Media Encoder, and finally out to you guys. So it can get a bit complex here and there, and I have had some frustrations in the past when I've had to fix something when it's stopped working for no reason. But yeah, if you're only just getting started out, you cannot go wrong with mobile. You do not need anything particularly complex for as long as you have a reasonably powerful computer to go a lot powerful. As long as you've got a good computer with a nice high-speed internet connection to the server that can connect to your set. One tip I would give though, make sure to record something from the WAV, because if you record your WAV files, if you go for quite well, they will go into the gigabytes of size. We tend to use FLAC ourselves because it's smaller and it's lossless.
Speaking of WAV, we have a staff member called Russian Bones, and he's quite known for speaking on and on and on. Now, in episode reviews when we used to use .wav, mine and Moonlight's file size would be pretty normal, and then his would definitely be at least 100 megabytes, if more.
Usually about half a gigabyte.
Yes. So, yeah.
We've always tried to keep things simple. What we've done is, for the interviews, we use Procaster to stream it on live stream, and we use Skype to do the interviews, and we use a free Skype recorder, which saves to MP3, which saves the audio from the Skype recorder as soon as the call starts. It's been really useful for us. I also record sort of backup sound file using Audacity, which is also free. And very, very good to use.
Well, what I did was, because my internet connection, I live in the middle of nowhere, it's worse than terrible.
And until I moved out, I was about on the same level as his.
Yeah, we just normally talk on Skype, and then we record our own bits in Audacity and send them to me, and then I'll sync them up, put them together. Which, can cause a few problems if someone's file messes up, like
days of pondering.
yeah, and we had an abandoned episode which I spent 9 hours trying to edit, and it was missing segments randomly in each file, and it got very frustrating, and I had to give up.
Even though our site sounds okay, I guess, we're kind of obsessed with getting the microphones perfect quality, considering Bobby shelled out like 160 quid on these Blue Yetis.
Yeah.
That's the thing, actually. Now you mention mics, this is a thing we've had as well. If you are going to do a podcast of any sort, the best investment you can make is a good mic. It makes all the difference, because if you have just like some desktop mic, you're going to sound awful, it's going to sound awful, and people are not going to listen to it. Best investment you can make is a decent mic. As they just mentioned, the Blue Yeti has become kind of ubiquitous, if that's the word, I can't remember how to pronounce it. But it's basically become the weapon of choice for most every radio staff. Most of us have one.
Yes.
Me and One Trick, and I think 8-Track as well, probably the only people who do, because we have...
No, 8-Track has the Pro version.
Yeah, 8-Track has got the Pro version, which the only difference between it is it has higher audio quality, it's got higher sampling quality and an XLR output. That's the only reason me, One Trick and 8-Track don't have the Blue Yetis, because we have actual XLR mics and means of connecting them to our computers. But yeah, if you're going to do a podcast, get a good mic. It makes a difference.
And I should point out the Blue Yeti is sometimes a bit too good. As me and Bobby discovered recently, when summer began, my computer's terrible fan ends up sounding like about 3 vacuum cleaners are going off.
Yeah, that's like, well, I always wanted to have music in the background anyway, but it kind of benefits me because I can get my file with like no background noise, but then it's just so, you know.
But the music helps to cover it.
I can never,
except in the early episodes where, you know, the music covered up us talking.
Yeah, and I had a Skype microphone and it was awful. That's why you should never listen to the first episode.
Never.
Okay, we've probably got time for about 1 or 2 more.
When you do something frequently, like broadcasting, it tends to become sort of a day job and you lose interest in it. I want to ask if you feel that way, and if you do you have any tips for amateur broadcasters that they can keep the spark, you know? Like...
Honestly, I've never felt once that my job on MLP Radio has been like that, a day job. Every moment I enjoy, from the recording to the just chatting to the interviews, it's always been fun. Especially in recording though with episode reviews, because occasionally we do have some mess ups. Now they've gotten better since we first started as we gain more experience, but the occasional one just makes it hilarious and all worthwhile.
Yeah, certainly what I would say, I mean, when you say it can feel like a day job, I would say to that, really this is not the kind of thing that one does as a day job. I mean, this is not what we're doing as a day job, it's what we're doing in our free time, we're doing it because we enjoy it. So, if it's something you do and it feels like a day job to you, then you shouldn't be doing it, because you're not having fun. And if you're not having fun, there's no point to doing it. We all, well, I would assume that we, all of us, we do what we do because we have fun doing it. And if you're not having fun, don't do it. Because you aren't enjoying yourself and your audience aren't enjoying themselves.
What we've always done to keep things fun is have a high level of interactivity with the community. When we do the broadcast, we always have the live stream chat. We're always watching that to see any comments that people have made or any questions that come up, and we try and include them into the interviews or the broadcast. Some of our best questions have come from the people listening, where they ask you a question and we just get stumped because they're like, that's an amazing question. Or it's also the guests as well. If you have a good guest who's really active and very talkative, then that's always keeping things fun and interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I always keep interest. I mean, sometimes, you know, if you're waiting months and months when this guy doesn't have internet, it can get a bit frustrating, but yeah, like once. Yeah, once for 2 months. No, I just enjoy it, and I enjoy getting to talk to people and just talking through the community, and it's what I spend most of my Friday nights doing.
For me, it's really just, feedback. Like, hearing what people say about it, seeing that people are enjoying it. It's like, how can you not love what you're doing if other people are just loving it? Like, you get so many people who say, oh, that episode was hilarious. Or, no, that was a great interview with someone like that. And it's like, we're doing something, right? Just keep going with that. And obviously, you say a day job thing across more like a once a week job. And I'm terrible to keep to a schedule.
Yeah.
I'll usually be in the middle of a game or something, and it's like, ooh, we're supposed to be recording an hour ago. I'm like, no, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, it can get a bit much, but I mean, I wouldn't see myself doing it any other way, so.
It's you guys. You make it worth it.
Awesome.
Is that just for you?
We've talked a bit about episode reviews. Are there any particular episodes or stories you'd really like to see addressed in season 3?
Well, I really can't think of what they have planned for us, so I'm keeping my mind open. So when I see what they do have for us, it's just going to be a blast no matter what. I'd rather not get my hopes up for something that may not happen and just be excited about what will happen.
I would pretty much agree with that. I mean, I would say what I want to see in season 3 is whatever they're going to show us, basically. Granted, there are certain things I would like to see expanded upon if possible, but with that said, an article that was written recently by the Roundtable, we have their post across both of our website, and ever since they started doing that, I've noticed them there and read them. One of the things they said which makes the show so brilliant is its ambiguity, because it allows us to speculate on things that could or maybe are, but it never explicitly tells us what actually does happen with things. And in so doing, it allows us to imagine and make up our own ideas, and that's what makes this such a lively community creativity-wise, because we're allowed to speculate on things and make up our own ideas and come up with our own things. So, for example, when they expand a bit on how Princess Luna is, it closed some doors as to how things could be, but at the same time also gave us so much more to work on. And one of the best things that they've done with this show is when they've answered some questions, but in so doing, left us with more. That is one of the best things that they do with this. And so I would say, whatever's coming in season 3, that's what I would see, because I know they're just going to keep doing this, and it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, they've always been very good at telling the right stories or giving us the right things to work on or just to think about and speculate. I've always liked the fact that they sometimes give us, they give a little nod to the fandom sometimes, but they don't take it too far. It's not like we control them. They know us and they know us and accept us, but they're not pandering to us. They're still doing what they do, which is what I've always liked.
Yeah, I mean, you never want the fandom to be dictating what there is, because that's where you end up with bad stuff like Phantom Menace and such. But
I'll have you know I like Dark Maul.
I just want, see those good songs get remixed and all the awesome artists, and I'm just excited to be along for the ride.
Well, I'd just like to see Discord again. I'd also like Scooby to get an episode, so they can finally develop her as a character.
Actually, I will say one thing I want to say, or rather hear, is I want to give Octavia a speaking power.
Yes, they can use the
She's pretty good.
Yeah, she was.
Thank you very much, guys.